Before that, news about the Turkish president who's issued a furious response to Washington after members of his security team were charged with assaulting protesters in the US Capitol. It's the latest step in a growing diplomatic row.
They issued arrest warrants for 12 of my security guards. What kind of law could justify this? We're going to fight this on legal and political grounds.
It is definitely heating up after that fight on May 16th when President Erdogan was here in Washington, D.C. and his security detail clashed with protesters, pro-Kurdish, anti-Turkish protesters. Well, now, obviously, the D.C. police issued a warrant on 12 members of Erdogan's security detail. The Turkish Foreign Ministry says that this is a biased and the decision that has no legal basis and summoned the U.S. ambassador to inform of that. But clearly, there's a big question, and that question was actually asked at a State Department briefing now.
Our actions will be responsive and proportional to the charges. Our focus is to work with law enforcement officials to ensure that those who are responsible for the violence are held accountable for those actions.
Right, but they're not here.
Correct.
These guys are not going to come here to be tried. The only way they're going to be held accountable is that you get them here. And the only way you're going to get them here is if you seek and get the Turkey's permit, seek their extradition, and Turkey agrees to it. So the question is, even though the Turks are unlikely to agree to extradition unless perhaps you extradite one of their citizens who might be living here in this country.
Well, that citizen Matt Lee from Associated Press was talking about there is obviously Fethullah Gulen, one of the leaders of the Turkish opposition, a cleric who has been in exile in the United States for the last 18 years. And he has been something of a bad spot in relations between the two countries. Back in the Obama era, there was a lot of talk, there were a lot of demands coming from Ankara to have Gulen extradited back to Turkey. But now Turkey stepped up the game and accusing Gulen of inciting the 2016 coup attempt in the country's new administration in Washington is not budging to that, is not saying that Gulen will be extradited. At the same time, obviously Washington has been insisting, even during that meeting when the brawl took place in Washington between Erdogan and Trump, that Turkey is a strategic ally in the region. As we all remember, Turkey still hosts the largest nuclear stockpile of the United States in Europe at the Incirlik base. It's really hard to see where this whole thing is going, but clearly it's another downhill ride on this roller coaster of U.S.-Turkish relationship that we've been seeing over the past several years.
A few weeks ago, Erdogan was here, the president of Turkey. He was in town at the embassy, and some of his security detail and embassy security attacked Americans who were protesting off embassy grounds out front. Today, Metropolitan Police announced that 12 guards are going to be criminally charged and have arrest warrants out for them. First, where was the outrage from the media about that, about Americans being attacked on our own soil? And second, what's going to come of these charges? Will anything happen?
Number one, are they going to claim any kind of weird diplomatic immunity? I doubt it, but that's an interesting question. But let me ask you this question with a question. Manila, I want you to imagine this. Instead of it being Erdogan and Turkey, what would have been the reaction of Wolf Blitzer and these folks if it had been Putin and
I
Russian
knew you were going to
security?
say that.
Can you imagine? They would have stopped breaking news, developing news, America at war.
I know you too well.
People can't find Turkey on a map.
For more on all of this, we're being joined now by a friend of the show, Lionel of Lionel Media. Lionel, my friend, let's talk Trump. I mean, I wouldn't be understating it if I said that we are a nation divided right now. The congressional baseball field shooting yesterday, that could be argued as a partisan madman driven just over the edge. Do you think President Trump plays any role in this partisanship across the country?
He plays one of many roles. M-Chan, I don't want to remind people about this, but for most people, their world, their history began January the 20th. Do I have to remind you of the Civil War, World War I, the McCarthy hearings, Vietnam? Do you know this fact? There are not more crazy people in the world. There are more crazy people on social media. Imagine if we could, no, seriously, imagine during the Civil War, after the Emancipation Proclamation, what people would have been tweeting. During the 60s, when we looked around and we said, do you think people are upset? We'd have to look for a riot or maybe a song. But today, by virtue of this device, every crackpot, every lunatic, everybody in their parents' basement covered in Cheeto dust can spew vile hate that is frothed and caused more frenetic by others. And then you also have this rancid, horrible mainstream sock puppet media like Wolf Blitzer and his clan fighting in an existential a fight for their lives where they have to ratchet up everybody. The days of Cronkite are over. So let me explain to you. In my lifetime, in a 5-year period when I was a kid, we went through assassinations of MLK, RFK, with Malcolm X. So all of a sudden now, people are looking at some lunatic and they think for the first time, gee, I've just discovered division. Are you kidding me? It's the only reason that we're just louder today.
I'm glad that you brought up the media, because as far as the media is concerned, I think we can both agree that it's mostly anti-Trump rhetoric that we're hearing, whether it's right or wrong. That's not what I'm saying. But it is very, very unfavorable coverage of him, whether somebody likes that or dislikes that, agrees or disagrees. They also said that, the media I'm talking about, they also said he couldn't win. But there he is, sitting at 1600 Pennsylvania. Now we're seeing comedians like Kathy Griffin with that controversial decapitated dummy head, Shakespeare in the Park depicts Caesar as Trump, Snoop Dogg pretends to shoot a clown that represents Trump. Are all of these actions kind of a bridge too far, you think?
Well, it goes to show you not only, let me just say this again, by virtue of the fact that we now have, in essence, lost our resistance to idiocy because everybody has their own little private platform, you have people like Stephen Colbert, whose show was on the skids, who was about to be replaced by James Corden. All of a sudden, he ratcheted it up. Then you've got Rachel Maddow, whose ratings before rivaled that of a baby monitor. All of a sudden, she's doing it. So what people are doing is they're, believe me, nobody at CNN has ever said, hey, Wolf, I think you've gone too far. Hey, you, I think you're making, no, they're saying, look at the numbers. Look how many tweets.
The media companies are eating this up, obviously.
They're eating it up because, don't you understand? They're in the death throes. They have to do this. Manila, nobody's watching this. Go to Main Street. Go to Main Street America. Go to the Heartland. Ask them if they know who Comey or Steve Bannon is. They don't know what the hell you're talking about. This is an illusion.
I got to get this in there real quick.
Yes.
I want to switch gears, put on your lawyer hat for just a minute. A few weeks ago, Erdogan was here, the president of Turkey. He was in town at the embassy, and some of his security detail and embassy security attacked Americans who were protesting off embassy grounds out front. Today, Metropolitan Police announced that 12 guards are going to be criminally charged and have arrest warrants out for them. First, where was the outrage from the media about that, about Americans being attacked on our own soil? And second, what's going to come of these charges? Will anything happen?
Number one, are they going to claim any kind of weird diplomatic immunity? I doubt it, but that's an interesting question. But let me ask you this question with a question. Manila, I want you to imagine this. Instead of it being Erdogan and Turkey, what would have been the reaction of Wolf Blitzer and these folks if it had been Putin and
I
Russian
knew you were going to say that.
Can you imagine? They would have stopped breaking news, developing news, America at war.
I know you too well.
People can't find Turkey on a map.
I know you very well. I had a feeling you were going to say Putin. All right, Lionel, I think that answers it for a lot of the viewers out there. Thank you so much for chiming in on that, Lionel of Lionel Media.
Chiming? No, thank you for chiming.